Curt Cignetti and Indiana football land their first commitment in the 2026 class. Are they starting to heat up?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. There's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Well, thank you so much for being here. Shout out to all of my everydayers who show up Monday through Friday for each and every episode, which is free to you, by the way. And hopefully you caught our bonus episodes over the weekend about Indiana football, landing a big-time portal commit, which we'll talk more about today, and Indiana basketball falling to Purdue in a heartbreaker, which we'll have more on basketball later in the show as well. But on this Monday, is recruiting starting to heat up for Indiana football? And we're talking about 2026, even 2027 as well. And you may be saying, well, isn't it going slow? Didn't Indiana not have any commits in the 2026 class just a few days ago? Yeah, you would be right. But Indiana picks up their first commit in the 2026 class. And they also had their second set of junior days this past weekend. And I think it went really, really well based off some of the comments from some of the players, plus just based off some of the players you had on campus regardless. I mean, we're talking about big-time quarterbacks and running backs and linemen and defensive guys who are 3, 4, 5 stars who have offers from all sorts of Power 4 schools. And that's the difference. And I was talking to Brian Smith, our recruiting expert, the other day about this on his new show, The Portal. Go and check that out. And we were talking about how Indiana is different. We look different. We're acting different. We are executing differently on the recruiting trail because we're no longer going after guys who have offers from Toledo and Ohio, Miami of Ohio, and places like that. And no disrespect to those schools, but we're now competing for guys who are offers from Iowa and Wisconsin and Nebraska and places like that. And folks were winning those battles. And you saw that with the first commitment in the 2026 class was Sam Simpson, the 2026 offensive lineman from Wisconsin. Now, let me tell you why this is important. Yes, it's your first commit of the 2026 class, and it's always nice to get the first one in the bag, right? He showed up for a visit for these junior days that Indiana's been having, had some last weekend, had some this weekend. He shows up and he has offers from the likes of Wisconsin and Iowa and Iowa State, so Big 10, Big 12 schools. And Curt Cignetti and Indiana did not let him leave. And he didn't want to. He loved the campus. He loved the coaches. He talked about how he loved the attention they showed him, the love that they showed him, even in the middle of them going after a transfer portal offensive lineman. He specifically said, they showed me what I can do. They believed in what I can do and how successful that I can be here. And Sam Simpson said, good enough for me. I want to be an Indiana Hoosier. And boom, he commits right then and there, doesn't walk off campus until he does, and Indiana picks up their first commit in the 2026 class. He is 6'4", 285. He will be coming in the 2026 recruiting class, played a lot of defensive linemen in high school and will continue to do that, but he'll play offensive linemen as well. And think you get a little bit more size. But folks, do you realize what this means? Indiana went up to Wisconsin for a guy that's in the heart of Wisconsin, who doesn't do anything but go and play Badger football. And Indiana snatches him from that state. He's a 3-star offensive lineman. He's only going to get better. And this is a big, big deal. We've been asking for offensive linemen to get to campus. How many can you get? Start stacking them up, whether it's high school, transfer portal, whatever. We're going to talk more Pat Coogan in just a little bit. But you go and get Sam Simpson from Wisconsin, where they just breed offensive linemen, and they are born to play Badgers. That you are born to play at Wisconsin if you're an offensive lineman, and you go and get him to be an Indiana Hoosier. This is a really big deal, and I think we're really starting to heat up because some of the guys that were on campus this weekend for Junior Day was really, really special. I mean, you had guys from Michigan, you had guys from Georgia, Ohio, right here in Indiana, guys from Indianapolis. You had really big players on campus, and they had all sorts of quotes. My family and I had a great time. Can't wait to see them again, is what one said. This was a great visit. All the coaches I met were amazing. I learned a lot about the program. Goes on to say, love seeing the facilities and meeting the staff. I mean, you're talking about some really, really nice things that these guys are saying. Listen to this one. I love the way the head coach gets the best out of all of his players and how the strength coach builds up all the players and cares about their health and bodies. The cornerback coach is a great coach. He's very big on technique and doing everything all at 100%. That's from Jeremiah Douglas, who is a corner out of the state of Florida. Offers from Colorado, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Purdue, Indiana, Western Kentucky, Liberty, places like that. Getting this quote from Peaks.com. So you have these kids who are showing up with Power 4 offers, but they want to see Indiana and they want to be here and see what's going on. Because with all of this momentum now that Indiana's bringing, this is a destination place. And people laugh when I say that, but it's true. Look at the guys that are here. Look at the other guys. I mentioned we had, I think, 4 different quarterbacks between 26 and 27 on campus this weekend. Several 2027 guys were on the campus and talking about Indiana and going to make a visit here. This is a destination place. People want to see what's going on. They want to come and see our top tier facilities, our new practice facility. They want to meet Kurt Cignetti. They want to meet this coaching staff. And you saw that, and you are literally seeing it play out in front of our eyes with a guy like Sam Simpson, your first 2026 commit, all the guys who have been here over the past several weekends for Junior Day, and you're seeing that in the transfer portal too when you go and pick up a starting offensive lineman from Notre Dame. This is a place that people want to be. And Indiana is really starting to heat up. And I think this is only the beginning for 2026, 2027, and beyond. And if you keep winning on the football field like we just saw Indiana do, this is going to be a domino effect. This is going to catch fire, and Indiana will possibly become one of the most dominant forces in recruiting because the NIL is there, the coaches are there. If the winning remains, players will play at Indiana, and they will want to play at Indiana. So I think it's heating up, and I think if everything keeps going the way it's going right now, it could get to the point of being unstoppable. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, a lot of high school stuff going on, but we've also picked up one of the biggest commits in the portal, Pat Coogan from Notre Dame. We had an episode on him this weekend. We'll dive more into that, what he means and how this can elevate the offense moving forward. That's coming up right here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here. One game, 2 teams, endless possibilities. And there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with the FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on the coin flip, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, it doesn't get much better than that. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers, your daily spot for all things Indiana athletics. Thank you so much for being here. If you're enjoying the content, whether it's the daily episodes or those bonus episodes that we post on weekends and nights and throughout the week and things like that, be sure, if you're on YouTube, that you like this video. Helps it get out there, helps other people find it. More Indiana fans can be here. That way, we just keep growing this wonderful community. So like this video. Also leave your comments down below. Are there some names in that 2026 class that you think Indiana should really be focusing on? Or what position should Indiana be focusing on? Leave those thoughts in the YouTube comments down below. And then if you have not already, I ask you this every day because we keep growing and you guys are awesome. Hit that subscribe button. We're over 4,500 subs. We're on our way to 4,600 subscribers on YouTube. Takes one tap. You'll be coming every day, or you'll get notified when new episodes get posted. All of that is on the YouTube side. And then for those of you listening on audio, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, you name it, we're there. Make sure you're following us, leaving those 5-star reviews, have those notifications turned on so you don't miss those bonus episodes that we post, like I said, on throughout the day, like throughout the week at times, and then over the weekends as well. Don't always do it, but we try to get some content out there for you, and I don't want you to miss it, so have those notifications turned on. Well, there's a lot of good things in terms of high school recruiting for Indiana football, but as we discussed over the weekend in the breaking news department, Indiana picks up one of the best players in the transfer portal. I think our second biggest pickup this offseason in the portal, Pat Coogan, the Notre Dame offensive lineman, the Notre Dame center, is coming to Indiana. And I think that he could start in that very same spot this coming year. And we've talked about just how awesome this guy is. Did not start the first few games this season for Notre Dame, but when they had some injury problems, when he had to slide in there, he dominated. And he was a part of one of the best offensive line groups in college football. In college football, they were one of the best offenses in the country and definitely one of the best rushing offenses in the country. And I think that's something we kind of lost sight of last year for Indiana in particular, because there were so many explosive plays, right? Curtis Rourke was so good. Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper were awesome, who both of those are coming back, by the way, in case you forgot. And so we were just so excited to see Indiana throwing the football around and having huge, big plays, exciting plays, and being able to pick up third downs and go on long drives and then capitalizing on those long drives as well. You were doing that with an offensive line that was good, not great. And then it got banged up and you had to start moving some pieces around. And Indiana will hopefully get to fix that in 2025. But I want us to be a run-first offense. And I think Pat Coogan can help you be that. I think he elevates this offense in so many ways that we don't even realize, because he is a 2-year starter in Notre Dame and has played the highest level of football. I mean, the guy just played in the national championship game, and he had to leave because the guy who he was starting for is expected to come back next year. So he's not leaving because he can't play. He's not leaving because he's not good enough. He's leaving because he understands how the world works, and he took somebody's spot because of injury, made the most of it, but he's probably not going to have that spot again if he wants to play center. So he's going to come to Indiana, and he'll be the starting center here. We were going after his counterpart, right? We talked a lot about that, how we were going after Spindler, the other Notre Dame offensive lineman. Indiana talked to him. Indiana got a visit, and I think he enjoyed it here. But in case you missed the news, I think this happened yesterday on Sunday, he committed to Nebraska. So it is what it is. It was a tough ask to get both of them, but both of them are good. And I'm not going to try and sit here and say, oh, Pat Coogan's the best and Spindler sucks because he didn't come to Indiana. No, I'm not going to say, because it's not true. But I do think Pat Coogan elevates your offense a little bit more just because he plays that unique position of center. And I think he's a good pass pro. I think he could be better, but I think he's a good pass pro. I think he's a great run blocker. I think he's a great communicator, right? And that's what the center has to be. You've got to know your stuff if you are playing at that position. And I think Pat Coogan is awesome, and I think he will be your starting center. Plus, don't forget, you've brought in 2 other starting offensive linemen from Power 4 schools. Do you remember from Colorado? How about Ohio State? Remember those guys? Yes. How about Khalil Benson from Colorado and Zen Mikulski from Ohio State? I think they step in immediately on the right side of your offensive line. You're talking probably Benson at right guard and I would think Mikulski at right tackle. Could you interchange them? Maybe. But I think those guys will be on the right-hand side. If Bray Lynch can come back healthy, he'll be on the left side of your line. And then, the left tackle, I would assume Carter Smith, but maybe you bring, I don't know, maybe something works out there. But I think Coogan steps in and starts at your center's position immediately. And think about this. This, in terms of talent, could be one of the best offensive lines Indiana's ever had in football, ever. You bring in Fernando Mendoza, who is having to fill really big shoes from Curtis Rourke. And I think, too, the expectation for this offense as a whole should be to get to where you were a year ago and possibly be better. But this was one of the best offenses in the country last year. And so it's hard to have that expectation because it's really, really high. And it's going to be hard for Indiana to hit that expectation because it's really, really high. We don't know what Fernando Mendoza is going to be able to do here. He's a great quarterback, and I think he's a great addition and fits our system perfectly. But is he going to be to the level of Curtis Rourke? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Our running back room looks a little bit different. I'm excited about it, but it looks a little bit different. Your receiving room, I think, got elevated. I think your offensive line is definitely elevated. And so it's easy to sit here and say, well, if everybody other than quarterback as of now got better, then how would they not be better than a year ago? Because they broke records last year. Indiana had one of the best offenses in the history of the program last year. So that's hard to do. That's hard to ask to bring that up. But I think what you're getting with guys like Coogan is that you're going to be more competitive in those bigger games, in those bigger moments when you go up against the Ohio States, or like this coming year when you play Oregon and at Penn State. Both of those are on the road, at Oregon and at Penn State, where forever those teams, those programs have had bigger, better, faster, stronger players than you. You feel like with the additions of guys like Coogan that you are closer to them in talent and you are going to compete with them better than you did a year ago in your two biggest games, Ohio State and Notre Dame. And so that's what you're getting here. You wanted that with Spindler too, but he went to Nebraska. It is what it is. But you bring in 3 Power 4 starting offensive linemen, a Power 4 quarterback, a Power 4 tight end, more running backs, more receivers. You bring in tons and tons of talent. You're getting closer to those big time teams. You're getting closer to those big time programs. And that's all you can ask for if you're Indiana. So that's what you're getting with them. Does it pan out? Will it work out? I don't know. We're going to wait and see. But I think on paper, it's impossible to say that Indiana didn't get better this offseason on the offensive side of the football. Definitely on defense, but just focusing on the offense right now because of Pat Coogan, it's impossible to say that we didn't get better on paper on the offensive side of the football. Does that lead to more success? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Does that lead to getting those big wins, getting back to the playoff, winning a first-round game, making the Big Ten championship game? We're going to have to wait and see. But I think the talent on the field is going to give you a really, really good chance to do that, especially on the offensive side of the football with the additions you made, including Pat Coogan at the starting center from Notre Dame. All right, coming up in our final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers, we'll flip over to basketball, as this is a really, really big week for Indiana and Mike Woodson. And we've said that several times, but given how Friday night went, maybe there's some positivity. Maybe. We'll talk about that coming up on our final segment right here on Locked On Hoosiers. All right, final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much again for being here. Really do appreciate you making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. It's a big week for Mike Woodson in Indiana basketball. We're in the middle of that stretch that I told you was the most crucial one of the season because of all the ranked games you were having to play. And given how Friday night went on the road at Purdue, 81-76, we lose by 5 in a game that we had every chance to win. We played our hardest game this year. We played one of our better games this year. and yet you just crumble down the stretch. Terrible decision making, terrible communication, confusion, whatever, and you lose this game 81-76. It was heartbreaking. It was depressing. It really was. So now Indiana has lost 5 out of our last 6 games. The only win coming in overtime against Ohio State on the road. Thank God for that. But it doesn't get any easier. You have at Wisconsin on Tuesday night, a late game, 9 o'clock Eastern time. My goodness, do they not understand we have jobs to do? You got to go to Wisconsin, who is a top 25 team in college basketball, and they've been on a little bit of a slide. They're a top 25 team. Newest AP poll has not come out since this is recording, so if they dropped out, apologies. But you're still playing a really good team. But they're on a little bit of a slide as well. They're 2-2 in their last 4 games, 3-2 in their last 5. They've beaten USC on the road. They lost to UCLA, came back home and smacked Nebraska. They lost to Maryland on the road. I'm telling you, Maryland is one of the underrated teams in the Big Ten. They won at Northwestern coming in to this Indiana game. And for your Hoosiers, right, for us, you've just got to find life somewhere, somehow, some way. Because I think Wisconsin's gettable. I think Michigan is gettable. They're no longer a top 25 team. You go to Michigan State, who's a top 10 program in all of college basketball. You have UCLA at home, who I don't think they're great. And then you have Purdue at home, a chance to get some revenge. You've got Wisconsin this week and then Michigan this week. You've got to get one. I think we're good enough. This is going to sound crazy. I think we're good enough to get both. I really do. I think we match up well with Wisconsin. Michigan, I don't know. I think their guards are underrated in the Big Ten, but I think our bigs will have a chance against Michigan. But maybe there's some talks of rotation change. Maybe there's some talks for this India, because something's got to change, right? Something, and you did. You made some changes in the Purdue game, and heck, it almost worked, right? It almost worked. You played guys like Anthony Leal, who gave you their best game of their career, and you were in it down to the wire against that Purdue team on the road inside of Mackey Arena. I think changes have to happen. I think Anthony Leal has to play more. I think Malik Radu's got to watch these games. He's got to sit on the bench until he can figure out, have a better attitude, and how to defend without fouling, because he's hurting this team. He's a detriment to this team right now because he's not helping you. He's not scoring. He's not rebounding. All he does is foul and complain, and that's not going to get it done on the floor. Can Trey Galloway be in there and be effective? Because when he is, he's one of the best players in the Big Ten. We know that. But my goodness, we just haven't seen it, man. He even got the buzz cut. We still haven't seen it in what we need. And he's not playing up to the level that we need him. Speaking of that, another guy that falls into that category, where the heck is Miles Rice? Where is he? He just hasn't shown up. I mean, he's physically been there, but his presence seems to be somewhere completely different. It's just, I don't know. And Mike Woodson basically blamed him for the last couple of plays, because the whole thing was, well, why did Indiana not call a timeout? Right down the stretch, final possession of that Purdue game, because you had timeouts to take with you, or that you couldn't take with you. And Mike Woodson said, I was trying to get a hold of Miles on that final shot that he took, which was atrocious. He said, I was trying to get a hold of Miles. I just couldn't get his attention. What? You're trying to get the attention of your point guard, and he tells you to kick rocks, and I'm going to take this shot anyway. Was there no communication before that the plan was to come down there, take a timeout, draw up a play to try to tie, win, or get close in this game? There was no communication of that before. And then your point guard, who is instructed to get the instructions from the coaching staff, comes across half court and just doesn't pay you any attention. Just go, and that's true. You saw the game. You saw the play. That is very true. But why? Why is that happening? There's a disconnect here, man. I'm telling you, and something's got to change. I don't know who's got to play. I know this. I know Anthony Leal needs to play more. I know Luke Goode needs to play more. And somebody's got to help out our man Oumar Ballo, because he is playing to his potential. He's playing a high level of basketball right now. And Indiana's got to find something this week, because your schedule's not difficult, but it ain't easy. I mean, you still have top 10 Michigan State, top 10 Purdue, top 20 Oregon for now. Now, they did lose on Sunday night or Sunday afternoon. So we'll see where they end up going. But you also have games against Michigan, UCLA, Penn State, Washington, Ohio State. You have opportunities to get wins. The problem is you're running out of opportunities to get quad one wins if you're Indiana. And those are the ones that you have to make the NCAA tournament. Those are the ones that they look at in terms of your net ranking are your quad one wins. They don't care how many quad one losses you have. They just want to see how many wins you have. And Indiana has none. I think Ohio State went down as one. You've got 2 or 3. You need to look at the updated net rankings. I'm just looking at what comes up in terms of your schedule right now. And you have opportunities. 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5. 5 quad one games left on your schedule. You need to win 2 or 3 of those because you have to convince the NCAA tournament committee that you're worthy to make the tournament. Are you good enough to make the tournament and win in the tournament? I think we're talented enough. I've said that all year long. We're talented enough. We just haven't put it all together and proven it with W's on the schedule. If you do that this week and moving forward, then I think we'll be okay. But if you keep falling short and playing lazy and having no effort, not like Purdue, I'm talking the other games before that, then it's going to get really, really bad. And we've talked about it at that point. Mike Woodson's looking for a new job and Indiana's looking for a new head coach. Big week for Indiana at Wisconsin Tuesday, Michigan back at home later in the week. That is what's on the schedule for this Indiana basketball team. Again, I think we're good enough. I think we can win both games. I think you got to have one. Desperately got to have one. But if you win both and you have a little momentum going on the road to Michigan State, I think anything's possible, especially this year in the Big Ten and in college basketball. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Thank you so much again for being here. Really do appreciate you. I'm having a lot of fun, and I hope that you are as well. We're off to a great start in February. If you missed our bonus episodes over the weekend, go check those out. Whether you're watching on YouTube, listening on audio, we had one on Pat Coogan. We also had one on Indiana falling short against Purdue. And we'll be back tomorrow, Hoosier fans. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.